The church doors slammed open so hard that everyone turned around. My daughter had arrived, 40 minutes late, wearing bright red, not dark red, not respectful red, the kind of red people wear when they want attention. The organ player actually stopped, halfway through the hymn. That's how noticeable it was. Betrayal didn't seem to care. She walked straight down the center aisle like she was entering a restaurant, ton in one hand, designer sunglasses in the other, talking loudly, laughing. My wife was 10 feet away in a casket, and my daughter was arguing about vacation plans. Move the Bali trip to Thursday. Those were the first words she spoke inside the church. Not hello, not where's dad, not I miss mom, vacation plans. The room watched in disbelief. Betrayal never noticed. She never noticed when people were disappointed in her. That was her special talent. Then she spotted me and immediately looked annoyed. Not sad, annoyed, like I'd done something wrong. She marched over, stopped beside the front pew, and asked the strangest question I've ever heard at a funeral. How much longer? I thought she meant the service. She didn't. The inheritance meeting. For a second, I honestly thought I had misheard her. My wife hadn't even been buried yet. The flowers still smelled fresh, people were still crying, and my daughter wanted to discuss money. That's when I realized she hadn't come to say goodbye. She had come to collect something, and before the day ended, she was going to make a mistake so public that even the people who loved her would stop defending her. The color vanished from Betrayal's face immediately, not because she felt guilty, because she recognized the woman standing near the church doors. Everyone else looked confused. I wasn't. I knew exactly who she was. Veronica Shaw, Chief Executive Officer of Shaw Media Group, 5,000 employees, 8 offices, and unfortunately for Betrayal, her direct boss. The church had become so quiet that nobody dared move. Betrayal forced a smile, a terrible smile, the kind people wear when they're panicking. Veronica. No response. Veronica walked forward slowly, past the guests, past the flowers, past my wife's casket. Then she stopped directly beside me. I came to pay my respects to Denise. She never looked at Betrayal, not once. That scared Betrayal more than anger would have. People fear being ignored far more than being yelled at. Betrayal laughed nervously. I didn't know you'd be here. Veronica finally looked at her. The expression wasn't angry, it was disappointed, far worse. I didn't know you'd be like this. Several people looked away. Second-hand embarrassment was spreading through the room. Betrayal crossed her arms, defensive already. Always defensive. You're taking this out of context. Nobody believed that, not even her husband. I could tell by his face. Veronica glanced toward my wife's casket, then toward me, then back to Betrayal. Your mother spent 3 years helping our employee assistance program. The church became silent again. Most people didn't know that. I did. Denise never talked about her volunteer work. She preferred helping people quietly. Veronica continued. She mentored employees, raised scholarship funds, paid rent for workers going through crises. Now people were staring at Betrayal, not Veronica Betrayal, because the contrast was impossible to ignore. One woman spent her life helping people, the other couldn't stay respectful for 2 hours. Then Veronica reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to me. Not Betrayal, me. I promised Denise I would deliver this personally. My stomach tightened. What is it? A letter. When did she write it? 4 months ago. 4 months before the cancer worsened, before the hospital, before everything collapsed. My hands suddenly felt heavy because I knew my wife. And if Denise prepared something 4 months in advance, there was a reason, a very good reason. Betrayal stepped forward. I think that belongs to family. Veronica's eyes moved toward her slowly, dangerously. No. One word, that was all. Yet Betrayal immediately stepped back. The envelope remained in my hands, sealed, untouched. Then Veronica said something nobody expected. Read it. Right now, right here, in front of everyone, the church seemed to stop breathing. Even I hesitated. Denise had never been dramatic, never, which meant whatever was inside mattered. I carefully opened the envelope, removed several folded pages. The first line nearly made me lose my balance. Because it wasn't addressed to me, it was addressed to Betrayal. And the first sentence read, if you're hearing this letter, then you've finally become the person I spent years praying you wouldn't become. The entire church froze, including my daughter, because for the first time all day, she looked afraid. I had read thousands of things during my life, contracts, medical reports, mortgage documents, business agreements. Nothing ever made my hands shake like that letter. The church was completely silent, every eye fixed on the pages, especially Brielle's, because she recognized her mother's handwriting immediately. There was no denying it, no arguing with it, no explaining it away. Denise was speaking, even though she was gone. I continued reading. If you're hearing this letter, then you've finally become the person I spent years praying you wouldn't become. Brielle swallowed hard. The confidence she'd carried all morning was disappearing. Fast the letter continued. When you were 8 years old, you cried for 3 days because a wounded bird died in our backyard. Several people smiled sadly. I remembered that bird, so did Brielle. You begged your father to bury it properly. You made a tiny wooden cross. You cried because you believed every life mattered. My daughter's eyes dropped toward the floor, because everybody in the room could see the question forming. What happened to that little girl? Denise answered it herself. Somewhere along the way, you stopped caring about people. The words hit harder than yelling ever could. No anger, no insults, just truth, the kind that can't be argued with. I kept reading. You started measuring human worth by money, a status, influence, convenience. The church remained silent, a painful silence, because everybody had seen it. Neighbors, friends, relatives, co-workers. People had been making excuses for Brielle for years. Not anymore. Then came the part nobody expected, including me. If you're hearing this letter, it means you've publicly embarrassed someone who loved you. My stomach tightened. Even Veronica looked surprised, because Denise had somehow predicted exactly what happened, months before her death. The next line made Brielle's husband slowly step away from her. I know you better than anyone, and I know that eventually your selfishness will become too large to hide. A woman near the back quietly wiped tears from her eyes, not because the words were cruel, because they were heartbreakingly accurate. Then Denise wrote something directly to me. The first line addressed me by name. Henry. My throat tightened. I almost couldn't continue. If you're reading this, please stop protecting her. The words hit me harder than anything else in the letter, because she was right. For years, I'd defended Brielle, excused her behavior, explained it away, blamed stress, blamed work, blamed bad influences, blamed everyone except the person responsible. Brielle, Denise knew it, and now the entire church knew it too. Then came the final page. The page that changed everything, not emotionally, practically, legally, professionally. The page Veronica immediately recognized, because attached to it was another document, a document carrying Denise's signature. And Brielle's. The moment Veronica saw it, her face went cold, very cold. She reached toward me. May I see that? I handed it over. She read the page once, then again, then a third time. The expression on her face terrified Brielle, because Veronica wasn't shocked. She was furious. For the first time all day, truly furious. Brielle stepped forward. What is it? Veronica looked directly at her. You never told us. The church became silent again. Brielle's face lost all color. What are you talking about? Veronica held up the document, a signed ethics disclosure. One Denise had submitted months earlier. And according to that document, Brielle had been using her position at the company to pressure vendors into hiring her husband as a consultant. The room exploded with whispers, because suddenly this wasn't about a funeral anymore. This was about corruption. And judging by Veronica's expression, the story was about to get much worse. The whispers spread through the church like wildfire. Not because people understood the details, because they understood Veronica's face. People who run billion-dollar companies don't look frightened very often. Veronica looked frightened. Not for herself, for what she had just discovered. Brielle tried to laugh, a desperate laugh, the kind people use when reality starts slipping away. This is ridiculous. Nobody joined her, not even her husband, especially not her husband. Veronica slowly lowered the document. Ridiculous. Her voice was calm, dangerously calm. The company spent 6 months investigating anonymous complaints. My stomach dropped. Anonymous complaints? Brielle's confidence cracked, just a little, but enough for everyone to notice. We couldn't prove anything. Veronica continued. Not until now. The church became silent again. Every person listening realized they weren't watching a family argument anymore. They were watching a career collapse. Brielle folded her arms. Those vendors hired him because he's qualified. Veronica didn't respond immediately. Instead, she pulled out her phone, opened an email, then turned the screen around. "You sent this?" Brielle looked and instantly froze. Veronica read aloud. "I strongly recommend adding Mason Carter to the consulting team if you want future consideration from Shaw Media." Several guests gasped, because Mason Carter was Brielle's husband, the same husband now staring at the floor, avoiding eye contact with everyone, including his wife. Veronica looked at him. "Did you know she was sending emails like this?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Then Veronica opened another email, then another, then another. Every single one carried the same message: hire my husband, use my husband, choose my husband, or risk losing business opportunities. The room grew more uncomfortable by the second. Then came the worst part. Veronica looked directly at me. "Your wife discovered it." I blinked. "What?" "Denise discovered everything." The church fell silent, completely silent. Veronica continued. "One of the vendors contacted her privately." "Why Denise?" "Because Denise sat on our ethics advisory committee." I almost sat down. I hadn't known. My wife never told me. Not because she was hiding it, because she never bragged about helping people. She simply helped, then went home. "That was Denise." Veronica's voice softened. "She spent months trying to protect Brielle." Now even Brielle looked shocked. "Months?" Veronica nodded. "Your mother refused to report you." The entire room turned toward Brielle. She looked completely lost. Veronica continued. "Denise asked for time. She believed you could change." The words hit harder than any punishment ever could, because this wasn't revenge. This wasn't exposure. This was a mother trying to save her daughter. And failing. Then Veronica revealed the part nobody saw coming. 3 months ago, your mother gave me strict instructions." Brielle's voice cracked. "What instructions?" Veronica looked at her coldly. "If your behavior improved, I was to destroy the file." The church became so quiet you could hear people breathing. Brielle looked sick, physically sick. Then Veronica finished. "If your behavior got worse," she lifted the folder. "I was to finish the investigation." Tears suddenly appeared in Brielle's eyes. Real tears, not because of her mother, not because of the funeral, because she finally understood. Denise had given her one final chance, and she had failed it, publicly, spectacularly, at her own mother's funeral. Then Veronica delivered the sentence that ended everything. "Brielle, effective immediately, your employment with Shaw Media is terminated." Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Brielle simply stood there, staring like her brain couldn't process the words. Then her husband quietly stepped away from her. One step, then another. The distance said everything. 24 hours earlier, she believed she controlled everyone around her. Now she had no job, no reputation, no allies, and no excuses. The funeral ended shortly afterward. People slowly left, one by one. Many stopped to hug me. Many shared stories about Denise. Many cried. Not a single person stopped to comfort Brielle, not one. As the church emptied, I remained beside my wife's casket. For the first time all day, peace settled over me, not because Brielle had been punished, because Denise had finally been heard. Years of kindness, years of patience, years of trying to save people, even the people who hurt her. And in the end, her final act wasn't revenge, it was the truth. A truth so powerful that it destroyed every lie standing around it. 6 months later, Brielle called me, not asking for money, not asking for help, not asking for connections. She asked one question. "Do you think Mom ever stopped loving me?" I looked at the photograph of Denise sitting on my desk, then answered honestly, "No, that's why this happened." And for the first time since the funeral, my daughter cried for the right reason.